Ancient civilizations mapped the stars with a precision that defies modern explanation. These lost empires predicted cosmic cycles with an accuracy that still holds true today, and you will learn the secrets behind their celestial mastery by the end of this journey. We will uncover how they built monuments aligned with solstices and created calendars that tracked planetary movements for thousands of years. How did cultures separated by oceans develop such similar and advanced knowledge of the heavens? What forgotten methods allowed them to see into the future of the cosmos? This exploration will challenge everything you thought you knew about history and science. What part of this ancient mystery speaks most deeply to you? Under the vast Mesopotamian night, a single priest presses a stylus into wet clay, marking the precise position of Venus. This simple act, repeated for generations, formed the bedrock of cosmic knowledge. Across empires, from the Babylonians to the Maya, this was not casual stargazing. It was a rigorous, disciplined science. Astronomer priests dedicated their lives to tracking the slow dance of planets and stars, compiling records that spanned centuries. Their work was methodical and repeatable, a legacy of data inscribed on tablets and codices. This long-term dedication allowed them to discern patterns invisible within a single lifetime. They discovered, for instance, the Saros cycle. This is an 18-year period after which the Sun, Moon, and Earth return to approximately the same relative geometry, leading to a similar pattern of eclipses. It is a cycle modern astronomy still recognizes. How could they achieve such pinpoint accuracy with nothing but the naked eye and unwavering patience? Their secret was a collective effort, a chain of observers passing down meticulous notes through the generations. This was not magic, but the birth of empirical science, a relentless pursuit of order in the heavens. That same celestial knowledge was carved into the very earth beneath their feet. From the sprawling plains of Salisbury to the dense jungles of the Yucatan, ancient architects transformed stone and mortar into precise astronomical instruments. The grand stone circles and towering pyramids were far more than ritual spaces. They were permanent observatories, engineered to capture specific celestial moments with breathtaking accuracy. Consider the Temple of Kukulcan at Chichén Itzá. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, the setting sun casts a series of triangular shadows down the pyramid's northern staircase. These shadows connect to stone serpent heads at the base, creating the stunning illusion of a feathered serpent slithering down from the heavens. This was not a happy coincidence. It was a meticulously calculated display, a fusion of art, architecture, and astronomy that announced the changing seasons with dramatic flair. Scholars like Aveni have dedicated their careers to decoding this celestial geometry, revealing the profound understanding of solar cycles required to achieve such an effect. The builders possessed a sophisticated grasp of angles and the sun's shifting path across the sky, knowledge that allowed them to predict solstices and equinoxes years, even centuries in advance. These structures were their calendars, massive stone clocks that synchronized human life with the cosmos, dictating when to plant, when to harvest, and when to honor the gods. The sheer permanence of these alignments suggests a civilization planning for a future they would never see, embedding their wisdom into the landscape for generations yet unborn. What other cosmic messages did they encode in granite and limestone, waiting for us to decipher? While the stone serpents descended at Chichén Itzá, a Mayan scribe in a quiet chamber was calculating time on a scale that dwarfs our own. With meticulous care, he inked a date in the long count calendar, a system designed to track epochs spanning over 5,000 years. This was not merely keeping track of days, it was an act of cosmic prophecy. The true genius of these lost empires lay in their calendrical systems, intricate and interlocking mechanisms of time that remain some of the most accurate predictive tools ever created. The Maya, for example, did not rely on a single calendar. They operated multiple cycles simultaneously. The 260-day sacred round, known as the Tzolk'in, meshed with the 365-day solar year, the Hub. Together, these formed a larger 52-year cycle called the calendar round. But their most ambitious project was the long count, a linear chronology that measured vast stretches of time, allowing them to place historical and future events on a grand celestial timeline. These systems were not invented from whole cloth. They were built upon a foundation of relentless astronomical observation. The Hub closely approximated the solar year, while another calendar perfectly tracked the 584-day synodic cycle of Venus, a period from one morning star appearance to the next. This observational precision allowed for breathtaking long-term predictions. According to researcher John Major Jenkins, the Maya even aligned their entire calendar with the precession of the equinoxes. This is the slow, wobbling rotation of Earth's axis that completes one full cycle every 26,000 years. By synchronizing their long count with this grand celestial rhythm, the Maya could predict not just the annual return of the seasons, but also the slow, majestic shifting of the entire star field over millennia. Their calendars became cosmic clocks, synchronizing human time with the deep, rhythmic pulse of the universe itself. How did they maintain such flawless accuracy over centuries without mechanical aids? The answer lies in the unbroken lineage of astronomer priests, each generation refining the calculations of the last, preserving this sacred knowledge through codices and oral traditions. This mastery reveals a culture that saw itself as an integral part of a living cosmos, using the flow of celestial time to guide everything from planting crops to shaping prophecies that reached across the ages. These celestial clocks were more than just numbers and cycles. They were woven into the very myths that defined entire cultures. The stars were not distant points of light. They were gods, heroes, and monsters playing out their eternal dramas. In ancient Egypt, the story of Osiris was a map of the heavens. His murder and resurrection by his wife Isis directly mirrored the annual journey of the constellation Orion. Each year, Orion would vanish from the night sky for a period, only to rise again triumphant, just as Osiris was reborn. This was not a mere metaphor. It was a functional, cultural memory aid. The dramatic narrative of betrayal and renewal made the complex timing of the constellation cycle unforgettable, ensuring that every generation understood this celestial rhythm. The myth encoded the astronomy, transforming abstract observation into a story that resonated with human emotion and spiritual belief. This pattern repeats across the ancient world. The Greek legend of Phaethon, the son of the sun god Helios who lost control of his father's chariot and scorched the earth, reads like a vivid record of a terrifying cosmic event. Could this be a cultural memory of a massive solar flare, or perhaps a close encounter with a comet? Scholars like Giorgio de Santillana propose that such myths are a kind of pre-literate science, preserving advanced astronomical knowledge within the framework of epic poetry and folklore. His work, Hamlet's Mill, suggests that the great mill of the title is a symbol for the slow, grinding precession of the equinoxes, a concept embedded in myths from Scandinavia to India. By personifying the planets as deities with distinct personalities and relationships, cultures like the Greeks and Hindus created a living, breathing model of the cosmos. The predictable movements and cycles of Venus, Mars, and Jupiter were explained through the loves, wars, and journeys of their divine counterparts. This mythological framework provided a powerful tool for prediction. If you knew the story of the gods, you could, in a sense, predict their behavior in the sky. These stories were the vessels that carried complex cosmic wisdom safely across generations, blending hard-won scientific observation with deep spirituality. They ensured that the knowledge of solstices, eclipses, and planetary cycles was not confined to a priestly class but was sung by bards, enacted in rituals, and passed down as bedtime stories. So the next time you look up at Orion, remember that you are not just seeing a collection of stars, you are witnessing the eternal return of a god, a myth written in light that has guided humanity for thousands of years. What other cosmic truths are still hidden within the world's oldest stories, waiting for us to remember their original meaning? The myths told the stories, but the tools did the math. While stories of gods were passed down through song, a different kind of knowledge was being forged in metal and stone, engineered into instruments of stunning complexity. Picture an ancient Chinese astronomer standing before a towering armillary sphere. This intricate nest of metal rings, each one representing a key celestial circle like the equator or the ecliptic, allowed him to pinpoint a star's position with a degree of accuracy that seems impossible for the time. This was not unique to one culture. Across the globe, lost empires were becoming master toolmakers, transforming from passive stargazers into active cosmic engineers. Their journey began with elegant simplicity. A gnomon was nothing more than a stick placed upright in the ground, yet by tracking the length and direction of its shadow throughout the day and across the seasons, it became a powerful solar calendar and clock. From this basic principle, they scaled up to monumental structures like the Inca's Coricancha in Cusco. This temple, sheathed in gold, was not just a place of worship. Its precise alignments of windows and niches functioned as a sophisticated solar marker, capturing the sun's rays on specific dates to mark solstices and equinoxes with ritual precision. But the absolute pinnacle of this ancient engineering was discovered not in a temple, but at the bottom of the sea. The Antikythera Mechanism, recovered from a 2,000-year-old shipwreck, is a corroded bronze puzzle that has stunned modern researchers. This hand-powered device, no larger than a shoebox, was an analog computer of breathtaking ingenuity. Inside its wooden case lay a complex system of at least 30 interlocking bronze gears. By turning a hand crank, the user could advance the mechanism forward or backward in time, and dials on the front would display the predicted positions of the sun, the moon, and known planets. It even showed the phases of the moon and could predict lunar and solar eclipses. The most astonishing revelation is that some of its gearing appears to mathematically account for the fact that the moon's orbit is not a perfect circle, but slightly elliptical. This is a subtlety of celestial mechanics that Western science would not formally grasp until the work of Johannes Kepler in the 17th century. This one device shatters our assumptions about ancient technological capability. It proves that these cultures were not just recording what they saw in the sky, they were building physical models of the cosmos itself. They were running simulations using bronze gears to replicate the complex dance of the heavens. The existence of the Antikythera Mechanism forces us to ask a haunting question. If this one device survived by pure chance, what other sophisticated tools have been lost to time? Their bronze gears melted down, their wooden frames crumbled to dust. Their ingenuity was a practical, hands-on effort to master the cosmos, turning the grand mystery of the sky into something they could hold in their hands. That same predictive power was etched onto clay tablets in the flickering torchlight of Babylonian libraries. Here, astronomer priests were not just watching the stars, they were decoding the complex rhythms of the planets themselves. They tracked the wanderers Jupiter and Mars with relentless precision, noting every time a planet appeared to slow down, stop, and reverse its course against the backdrop of fixed stars. We call this optical illusion retrograde motion. For the Babylonians, these were not mere celestial mechanics, they were potent omens. A planet in retrograde might signal the illness of a king or the outcome of a coming battle. But beneath the layer of divination lay a rigorous mathematical science. By compiling centuries of these observations, they identified precise, repeating cycles for each planet. A stunning example is the Venus tablet of Amisajuka, a 7th century before Common Era document that records the risings and settings of Venus over a 21-year period. This was not just a historical log, it was a predictive tool. The data allowed them to forecast the future appearances of Venus with remarkable accuracy for generations to come. This knowledge was power. It dictated the timing of everything from the crowning of a new monarch to the optimal date for planting crops, weaving a direct thread between the movements of the heavens and the fate of the empire. Far across the world, the Maya were engaged in an identical pursuit, but with a different cultural lens. They saw Venus not just as a planet, but as a malevolent god associated with war and chaos. Their survival depended on anticipating its movements. The Dresden Codex, one of their precious surviving books, contains intricate Venus tables that chart its 584-day synodic cycle with breathtaking precision. These tables allowed Mayan rulers to schedule military campaigns and important ceremonies for times when Venus was in a favorable, or perhaps a strategically intimidating, position in the sky. How do they correlate these specific celestial events with human activities? The answer lies in a foundational belief in a deeply interconnected universe. For these cultures, there was no separation between the cosmos and the earthly realm. A planetary conjunction was not a distant, impersonal event. It was a ripple in a cosmic fabric that touched every aspect of life. By recognizing the patterns, they believed they could read the intentions of the gods and align their own actions with the immutable laws of the heavens. This was a universe where the stars wrote the script, and humanity's role was to learn the lines. Earth's axis wobbles with the slow, steady patience of a spinning top. This subtle motion, called the precession of the equinoxes, shifts our view of the stars so gradually that it takes 26,000 years to complete a single cycle. To observe this drift, an astronomer would need to track the position of the sun at the spring equinox against the backdrop of constellations for generations, noting its imperceptible slide from one zodiacal house to the next over centuries. Yet, astonishingly, multiple ancient cultures not only knew of this grand cosmic rhythm, but built their deepest conceptions of time around it. The Hindu Yuga system describes 4 world ages, or yugas, that descend from a golden age into our current age of conflict, the Kali Yuga. The total length of this great cycle aligns almost perfectly with the precessional period. This was not a random number, it was a philosophical framework rooted in the observable, if incredibly slow, turning of the celestial sphere. The Maya, with their long count calendar, also synchronized their timekeeping with this wobble. Their calendar was designed to track vast epochs, and its much-discussed end date in the year 2012 corresponded not to a prophecy of doom, but to the completion of one precessional cycle and the beginning of the next. How could a human civilization with a limited historical record detect a cycle that takes millennia to unfold? The answer lies in the power of legacy. A single observer might see nothing, but a lineage of priests guarding unbroken records for 1,000 years would possess a data set long enough to witness the stars themselves migrating. This required a culture that thought in terms of centuries, not seasons, a civilization that planted intellectual seeds for its descendants to harvest. Researchers like Graham Hancock have long argued that this knowledge of precession is a fingerprint of a lost, advanced understanding, a shared wisdom encoded in the alignment of the Great Pyramid toward a different pole star in its past, and in global myths that speak of world ages and great resets. These empires were not just predicting the next eclipse, they were mapping the cosmic winter and summer of human civilization, seeing time as a spiral, not a line. Their visionary perspective challenges our own short-term view of history, asking us to consider what cycles we are in the middle of right now, without even realizing it. A lunar eclipse begins to shadow the moon's bright face, but the astronomers watching feel no surprise, only confirmation. They knew it was coming. For these ancient sky watchers, the moon was not just a nighttime lantern. It was the primary clockwork of their universe, its predictable phases governing everything from planting seasons to sacred ceremonies. The key to their foresight lay in recognizing patterns within patterns. The most famous of these is the Saros cycle, a period of approximately 18 years discovered by the Babylonians. They noticed that after this interval, the sun, moon, and earth returned to nearly the same geometric alignment, creating a similar sequence of eclipses. This was not a lucky guess, it was a conclusion drawn from centuries of meticulous record-keeping. On their cuneiform tablets, they logged every eclipse, noting its date, type, and duration, building a data library that spanned generations. They viewed these celestial events as powerful omens, messages from the gods about the fate of their king and kingdom. This belief provided a powerful incentive for perfecting the science of prediction. If you could foresee an eclipse, you could prepare for its divine message, turning a moment of cosmic terror into one of ritual control. Far to the west, the massive stones of Stonehenge stand as a silent testament to another lunar obsession. While its solar alignments are famous, many researchers propose its architecture also captures the moon's most extreme journey. Every 18.6 years, the moon reaches a lunar standstill, a point where its path across the sky swings to its farthest north and south. The arrangement of the station stones at Stonehenge seems to frame these extreme rising and setting points, marking a cycle that takes nearly a human generation to complete. This knowledge of the moon's subtle wobble allowed these cultures to anticipate not just eclipses, but the moon's entire rhythmic dance. How did they track such a long cycle with such primitive tools? The answer is written in the landscape itself. They built monuments that served as permanent observing platforms, stone computers that locked celestial knowledge into place. A priest could stand at the center of the henge and, by looking through specific gaps between the towering sarcens, know exactly where the moon would be in its long, slow cycle. This mastery transformed a source of primal fear into a tool for societal planning. By predicting an eclipse, they demonstrated a profound understanding of cosmic order, reassuring their people that even the most dramatic celestial events were part of a knowable, predictable pattern. The moon's gentle glow hid a complex rhythm, and these lost empires learned to hear its music, composing their calendars and their lives to its timeless beat. High on a mountain ridge at Machu Picchu, a beam of golden light pierces the frigid dawn. On the winter solstice, this single ray streams through a precisely carved window in the Temple of the Sun, striking a sacred stone altar within. This was no accident of architecture. It was the culmination of a solar science perfected across continents, a silent announcement that the sun had reached its southernmost point and would now begin its long return. For these cultures, the sun was the ultimate timekeeper, its dependable journey dictating the rhythm of life itself. The Inca masterwork, the Intihuatana stone, translates to the hitching post of the sun. This intricately carved granite pillar functioned as a sophisticated solar clock. On the equinoxes, the sun would stand directly overhead, casting no shadow at all, a moment of perfect celestial balance. The stone's angles and planes were engineered to mark the solstices with similar precision, telling the priests exactly when the sun was reborn for the new year. This knowledge was power. It told farmers when to plant their maize and when to harvest their potatoes, aligning human survival with the cosmic order. But this solar mastery was not unique to the Andes. Far away in the Egyptian desert, the oldest known astronomical megalith in the world, the Nabta Circle, predates Stonehenge by 1,000 years. Around 5,000 years before the Common Era, a nomadic people arranged standing stones to align with the summer solstice sunrise. This circle in the sand proves that the drive to track the sun's cycle is one of humanity's most ancient and universal intellectual pursuits. How did they achieve such flawless alignments with only the naked eye and simple tools? Their method was one of patient, generational observation. They used gnomons or shadow-casting rods to track the sun's shifting path day by day. They noted the exact point on the horizon where the sun rose each morning, watching it migrate northward until it seemed to stop at the summer solstice, pause, and then slowly journey back south. Over years, then decades, then centuries, these critical turning points were memorialized in stone, a specific boulder placed to catch the first light of the longest day, or a corridor in a temple designed to be illuminated only on the shortest. These solar markers were both practical and profoundly spiritual. They were a physical manifestation of humanity's dialogue with the cosmos, a way to pin the wandering sun to the earth, to assure everyone that the light would always return after the long, dark night. This harmonious relationship with the natural world saw the sun not as a distant ball of fire, but as a living guide, a deity whose reliable cycles offered both sustenance and a deep, abiding sense of order in the universe. Across the Pacific, a Polynesian navigator charts a course by the stars, feeling the swell of the ocean beneath his canoe as he reads the night sky like a map. For his people, the stars were not static pictures but a moving, living compass. They memorized the precise rising and setting points of hundreds of stars, understanding that as they sailed, the star paths would shift, guiding them to islands thousands of miles away. This was stellar navigation refined to an art form, a knowledge system that allowed them to conquer the world's largest ocean. Their celestial maps were not drawn on parchment but etched into memory through chants and songs, passed orally from one master navigator to the next. They understood the cosmic cycles so intimately that they could predict ocean currents and seasonal weather patterns based on the position of specific constellations. This was a practical, life-saving science woven into the fabric of their culture. On the other side of the world, the ancient Egyptians were conducting their own celestial symphony. They noticed that the brightest star in the sky, Sirius, would vanish for a period and then reappear just before dawn in the eastern sky. This event, known as the heliacal rising of Sirius, always coincided with the annual, life-giving flooding of the Nile River. For the Egyptians, this was the true start of their new year, a direct celestial signal that the time had come to prepare their fields. Their obsession with stellar timekeeping went even deeper into the decorated ceilings of their tombs. Here you can find intricate star clocks, charts that divided the night into hours by tracking the successive rising of 36 star groups called decans. As each decan rose on the horizon, it marked a new hour of the night, creating a celestial clock that ticked through the seasons. These systems reveal a profound truth about these ancient cultures. They did not see the stars as separate from the Earth. The celestial and the terrestrial were one unified system. The emu in the sky, a dark constellation recognized by Aboriginal Australians formed not by stars but by the dark dust lanes of the Milky Way, told them when the real emus on the ground were laying their eggs, signaling the time for gathering. In every case, the stars held stories that were directly connected to survival, to knowing when to plant, when to voyage, when to harvest, and when to celebrate. The night sky was their library, their calendar, and their compass, all written in a universal language of light. What other daily routines and ancient journeys are still encoded in the constellations above us if we only learn how to read them? Yet for all their brilliance, this celestial wisdom was a fragile flame in the winds of time. The great library of Alexandria once housed a universe of knowledge, its scrolls detailing Babylonian eclipse cycles and Greek star catalogues. When it burned, countless celestial secrets turned to ash, lost to us forever. This was not an isolated tragedy. The transmission of cosmic prediction from one generation to the next was always precarious, shattered by war, natural disaster, or the quiet erosion of cultural change. Consider the sophisticated astronomy of the Indus Valley civilization. They built meticulously planned cities aligned with cardinal directions, suggesting a deep understanding of the skies, but their script remains undeciphered. Their entire system of cosmic knowledge is locked within those silent symbols, a library we cannot read. Across the world, the Druids of Celtic Europe committed everything to memory. Their wisdom of the sacred oak and the movements of the stars was passed down through intricate oral traditions, never written. When their society fell, that vast intellectual edifice vanished with them, leaving only whispers in the landscape. This profound loss underscores a vital truth. The survival of scientific knowledge depends on written records and stable institutions that can withstand the collapse of empires. Yet there are flickers of hope in this story of forgetting. The pragmatic Romans, for instance, had little original astronomy of their own. Instead, they absorbed and preserved the celestial sciences of the Greeks and the Babylonians they conquered, weaving this borrowed knowledge into their own calendars and mythologies, ensuring a thread of continuity even as other lights went out. How can we possibly recover what was so utterly lost? We piece it together from fragments, from alignments in ruins and half-understood artifacts, a constant reminder of the vulnerability of human achievement. In our own digital age, with libraries stored in the cloud, their story asks us a sobering question. Are we any better at safeguarding our own discoveries for the readers of a distant future? A Chinese court astronomer and a Mayan day keeper, separated by an ocean, would both look to the heavens on the same day and know a solar eclipse was coming. Their methods were a world apart, yet their predictions converged with stunning accuracy. In the Shang dynasty courts, over 3,000 years ago, scribes etched eclipse records onto oracle bones, treating them as urgent messages from the heavens that could foretell the emperor's fate. This relentless logging of celestial events, century after century, allowed Chinese astronomers to identify the Saros cycle independently, refining their lunar calendar into a powerful predictive tool. They saw the cosmos as a vast, interconnected system where an eclipse was a direct commentary on earthly order. Meanwhile, in the Maya city-states, a priest consulting the Dresden Codex would trace his finger along complex tables of numbers. His predictions sprang not from a continuous historical record, but from the flawless mechanics of his calendar system. By perfectly tracking the cycles of the moon and the synodic period of Venus, the Maya could calculate when the sun and moon would meet in the sky to create an eclipse, weaving these events into their prophecies of war and renewal. One culture built its knowledge on accumulating data, the other on elegant mathematical cycles, yet both arrived at the same cosmic truth. This parallel development points to a profound idea that the human mind, when faced with the same celestial patterns, will often find the same solutions. Historian Joseph Needham's monumental work on Chinese science reveals how this knowledge was not always isolated. Along the Silk Road, astronomical ideas flowed between China, India, and the Islamic world, a slow-motion exchange of cosmic insight. But for the Maya and the Chinese, their achievements were largely homegrown, a testament to innate human curiosity and intellect. Placing their systems side by side reveals the beautiful diversity of cosmic science. The Chinese saw omens for the state, the Maya saw messages for their gods, but beneath the cultural surface, both were driven by the same fundamental need to find order in the heavens, to transform the terrifying unknown into a predictable pattern. This shared intellectual journey spanning the globe asks us what other universal truths about our universe are waiting to be uncovered, not by one culture, but by the collective genius of humanity. A king's fate could be sealed by the path of Jupiter. In the shadowed courts of Mesopotamia, the astrologer priest was the most powerful advisor, a scholar who read the night sky as a divine scroll of impending wars, famines, and royal destinies. Here, the sharp line we draw today between astronomy and astrology simply did not exist. They were two sides of the same sacred coin. The meticulous recording of a planet's position was both a scientific act and a spiritual one, data gathered for a divine purpose. This union gave birth to a vast library of omen texts, like the famous Enuma Anu Enlil. These clay tablets systematically linked specific celestial events to prophesied outcomes on Earth. If Mars approached the Moon in a certain way, it might foretell the death of a king. If Venus shone with particular brilliance, it could signal a bountiful harvest. This was not seen as superstition, but as a logical consequence of a living, interconnected cosmos where the macrocosm of the heavens directly influenced the microcosm of human affairs. This potent blend of observation and interpretation did not stay in Babylon. It traveled along trade routes to ancient Greece, where it was refined and mathematized. In the 2nd century, Claudius Ptolemy, the same astronomer who mapped the stars with such precision, authored the Tetrabiblos, a foundational text that laid out the principles of horoscopic astrology. In it, he detailed how to cast a personal fate based on the precise planetary positions at the moment of birth. This idea then migrated to India, where it fused with local traditions to become Jyotisha, a system that remains deeply woven into the cultural fabric. The celestial science of predicting planetary cycles became the engine for a new kind of personal prophecy. So how did this blend of science and belief actually improve their predictions? The need for accurate omens provided a powerful, state-sponsored incentive to fund generations of sky watchers. A king wanting to know his future would ensure his priests had the best tools and the most uninterrupted records. The astrological imperative to understand the subtle nuances of each planet's motion drove a more rigorous astronomy. The desire to read the gods' will in the stars is what preserved the data, the very data that allowed them to discover the Saros cycle and the rhythm of Venus. Their cosmology was a single, unified system where every observation held layers of meaning, from the practical timing of the harvest to the mystical fate of an empire. To see the sky only as a clockwork mechanism is to miss half the picture they saw. For them, it was a clockwork that told a story, and their genius was in learning to read both the time and the tale. A Mayan mathematician, sitting in a torchlit chamber, adjusts a shell symbol representing 0 in his complex calculation of the solar year. This was not simple counting, it was high-level abstract thought, and the ability to conceptualize nothing as something was a revolutionary leap for all of mathematics. These lost empires built their celestial predictions on a foundation of numerical genius, each developing their own unique mathematical language to model the cosmos. The Maya employed a vigesimal system, counting in 20s instead of our 10s. This structure, combined with their sophisticated use of zero as a placeholder, allowed them to perform calculations involving enormous numbers, essential for tracking the vast cycles of their long-count calendar. Their numerals, composed of dots and bars, could represent everything from a single day to an epoch spanning millions of years. Across the world, the Babylonians were working with a base 60 system. Their sexagesimal mathematics is the reason we still divide an hour into 60 minutes and a circle into 360 degrees today. This base was a mathematical powerhouse, easily divisible by many numbers, which made complex fractional calculations for planetary periods far more manageable. Surviving clay tablets reveal they used advanced algebraic techniques, essentially solving quadratic equations to predict the precise timing of lunar phases and planetary movements. This was not theoretical math for its own sake. It was applied science of the highest order, driven by the urgent need to read the sky. Centuries later in India, the astronomer Aryabhatta would take the next logical step. In the 5th century, he developed the earliest tables of sine functions, a form of trigonometry that provided a powerful new tool for calculating the positions of celestial bodies against the fixed backdrop of stars. These mathematical innovations converged in a single, powerful tool, the ephemeris. An ephemeris is a table that plots the future positions of the sun, moon, and planets on any given date. It is the ultimate product of cosmic prediction, a user-friendly guide to the heavens compiled from centuries of observation and complex calculation. The creation of such a tool required a profound willingness to explore pure numerical relationships and trust that they mirrored the reality of the cosmos. How did their mathematical systems, born in ancient observatories, eventually influence our modern world? The legacy is all around us. Our timekeeping, our geometry, and the very trigonometric functions used to navigate spacecraft all have direct roots in the calculative arts of these ancient sky watchers. Their abstract thinking laid the groundwork for the scientific revolution, proving that the language of the universe is written in numbers, and they were among its first and most fluent translators. Laser light sweeps across a barren Peruvian hillside, revealing what the naked eye had missed for centuries. 13 stone towers, spaced at regular intervals along a ridge, were not a forgotten fortress but a sophisticated solar calendar. This is Chancillo, the oldest known astronomical observatory in the Americas, and its recent identification by archaeologists using laser scanning and drone photography has rewritten history. The towers functioned as a giant horizon calendar. From specific viewing platforms on either side of the ridge, a witness could watch the sunrise march along the crest, appearing from behind a different tower every few days. Over the course of a year, the sun's rising point would travel from one end of the tower range to the other and back again, marking the solstices at the extreme ends with unerring accuracy. This was a communal, public timekeeping device, a democratic clock that allowed an entire society to synchronize with the solar cycle. Far across the Atlantic, another ancient structure holds a similar secret. Newgrange in Ireland, a massive tomb built over 5,000 years ago, is a masterpiece of celestial engineering. For just a few minutes around dawn on the winter solstice, a narrow beam of sunlight pierces a specially designed roof box above the entrance. This shaft of light travels down a long, dark passageway, eventually flooding the central burial chamber with a golden glow that lasts for precisely 17 minutes. This was not a random alignment. The builders of Newgrange engineered this phenomenon to capture the sun on the shortest, darkest day of the year, a powerful symbolic act of rebirth and renewal meant to illuminate their ancestors in the depths of winter. The field that uncovers these celestial blueprints is called archaeoastronomy, a discipline that merges archaeology with astronomy to understand how ancient cultures saw the sky. Pioneers like Clive Ruggles have spent decades carefully measuring alignments, arguing that we must view these sites through the eyes of their builders, for whom the sky was a living, sacred text. Modern tools like ground-penetrating radar and three-dimensional digital mapping are now confirming the precision of these ancient designs, revealing intentionality where we once saw only primitive ritual. Every time a new alignment is verified, it forces us to discard old assumptions about the limits of ancient knowledge. What other cosmic codes are embedded in the world's oldest ruins, waiting for the right technology or the right question to bring them back to light? This fusion of past and present science proves that their wisdom was not lost, only waiting for us to learn how to see it again. A ruler's divine mandate was written in the stars. When a new pharaoh ascended the throne in ancient Egypt, his coronation was meticulously timed. The most auspicious moment was the heliacal rising of Sirius, that brilliant star whose return heralded the Nile's life-giving flood. By synchronizing his rise to power with this celestial event, the pharaoh was not just a king, he was the earthly embodiment of the sun god Ra, his authority flowing as naturally and powerfully as the river itself. This was political strategy woven from cosmic cloth. The Aztec foundation myth follows the same pattern. Their priest scoured Lake Texcoco for the promised sign, an eagle perched on a cactus devouring a snake. This vision, deeply tied to specific celestial alignments and prophecies, was the divine signal to found their great city, Tenochtitlan. That single event, sanctioned by the heavens, legitimized their entire empire and fueled a century of expansion. These rulers understood a fundamental truth that controlling the calendar meant controlling the people. By demonstrating a unique ability to predict eclipses, solstices, and planetary conjunctions, a king proved he had the god's ear. This celestial endorsement was a powerful unifying force, transforming a collection of tribes into a cohesive society bound by a shared, heaven-sent destiny. The grand architectural projects we marvel at today were often the physical manifestation of this cosmic political theater. A pyramid aligned to a solstice sunrise was not just a tomb, it was a permanent, undeniable declaration of the ruler's connection to the cosmic order. Its construction, requiring the labor of thousands, was itself an act of social control, a project that unified the population under a common, God-like purpose. How many other empires rose because their leaders learned to harness the predictable rhythm of the cosmos to command the unpredictable nature of humanity? This deep entanglement of science and statecraft reveals that the stars were not just watched for omens, but were actively used as tools to build, maintain, and legitimize power on a scale that still takes our breath away. A king's most trusted advisor was not his general, but his calendar. For the Maya, their intricate system of time was not a passive record of days, but a living, breathing prophecy machine. They believed the universe operated in vast, repeating cycles of creation and destruction, and their calendars were the key to reading this cosmic script. The sacred Popol Vuh details the demise of previous worlds, each one destroyed and remade according to a divine timetable. This was not ancient history to them, it was a preview of coming events. Their long count calendar, which tracked epochs of over 5,000 years, was designed to pinpoint these moments of profound transition, moments when the cosmos itself would reset. This belief transformed their timekeeping from a science into a form of divination, allowing priest-prophets to forecast periods of potential turmoil or renewal. Far to the north, in the stark landscapes of Scandinavia, a different culture was tuning into a similar rhythm of doom and rebirth. The Norse myth of Ragnarok describes a great winter, the Fimbulwinter, that descends upon the world for 3 years with no summer in between. This is followed by a cataclysmic battle among the gods that ends the current age. While a story of gods and giants, some scholars see a reflection of real astronomical and climatic cycles within the allegory. The prolonged winter could be a cultural memory of a sudden, severe climate shift, a volcanic winter perhaps, or a metaphor for the long, dark nights of the polar region. The cyclical nature of Ragnarok, where a new and greener world rises from the ashes of the old, mirrors the concept of cosmic eras found in Maya and Hindu traditions. How did these dire prophecies actually influence the decisions of everyday people? They provided a narrative framework for understanding chaos. A failed harvest or an invading army was not just random misfortune, it was a sign that the great cycle was turning. This knowledge dictated when to go to war, when to build new temples, and when to seek divine favor through sacrifice. The prophecy gave meaning to suffering and hope for renewal, guiding entire civilizations through the uncertainties of existence by assuring them that even the end of the world was simply part of a larger, predictable pattern. Their calendars were not just measuring time, they were interpreting the intentions of the universe itself, offering a sacred map to navigate the terrifying and magnificent cycles of cosmic destiny. Within the inner sanctum of a Babylonian temple, the scent of incense mixed with the dry dust of clay. Here, a priest astronomer knelt, his stylus pressing precise marks into a wet tablet by the flickering light of an oil lamp. He was not merely a holy man, he was a scientist, a mathematician, and a state official, all at once. In nearly every lost empire, a specialized class like this one held the keys to the cosmos. These scholar elites were the human engines of celestial prediction, a living bridge between the earthly and the divine. Their education was vast, encompassing complex mathematics, meticulous observational techniques, and the intricate theology that gave their work its profound cultural meaning. In ancient Egypt, the priests of Heliopolis were the nation's timekeepers. Their observations of the star Sirius and the sun's journey did more than just mark the hours. They dictated the sacred calendar, telling farmers exactly when to sow their seeds and when the great festivals of the gods would begin. This was power, the power to synchronize an entire civilization with the rhythm of the universe. Across the world in India, the Brahmin caste served a similar role. They preserved and refined astronomical knowledge within the sacred verses of the Vedas, texts that contained precise information about lunar cycles, solar movements, and planetary patterns. Their authority was unquestioned because their predictions worked. They could tell you when the monsoon rains would arrive or when an eclipse would darken the sky. This unique position gave them immense influence, shaping everything from royal coronations to the daily rituals of common people. How did this authority shape the development of astronomy? It provided a stable, state-sponsored environment for long-term research. A king who believed his mandate came from heaven would fund observatories and support generations of priests, ensuring an unbroken chain of data collection that spanned centuries. This was not a hobby, it was a sacred duty with immense political and social weight. These men were the unsung heroes, the masterminds who transformed raw stargazing into a precise science, blending spiritual devotion with empirical rigor to lay the groundwork for all the astronomical discoveries that would follow. A bronze disk inlaid with gold captures the moon and the Pleiades star cluster against a starry sky. This is the Nebra sky disk, one of the world's oldest known concrete depictions of the cosmos, held in the hands of a European culture over 3,600 years ago. It was not just a beautiful object, It was a functional, portable astronomical instrument with golden arcs along its edge marking the solstices and the angle between sunrise points throughout the year. This artifact reveals a universal human impulse to translate the grand, abstract cycles of the heavens into tangible, beautiful symbols that could be seen, touched, and remembered. Across the globe, art became the primary language for this celestial knowledge. The Mimbres people of the American Southwest painted their distinctive black-on-white pottery with intricate geometric designs. To the untrained eye, they are simply beautiful patterns, but researchers propose these spirals and repeating motifs may encode solar and lunar cycles, a visual calendar for knowing when the seasons would turn. In the Maya world, this symbolism was carved in stone for eternity. Massive stone slabs called stelae were erected in city plazas, their surfaces covered with intricate hieroglyphs and portraits of kings. But these were more than just royal monuments, they were cosmic birth certificates. The inscriptions recorded the exact date of a ruler's accession, often linking it to a significant celestial event like the zenith passage of the sun or the appearance of Venus as the morning star. By carving this connection in stone, the Maya declared that their king's power was sanctioned by the cosmos itself, a divine right written in the movements of the planets. This artistic encoding made complex astronomy accessible. A farmer might not understand the mathematics behind a 19-year lunar cycle, but he could recognize the pattern on a pot that told him when to expect the next full moon for a planting ritual. A weaver in the Andes could incorporate a specific repeating motif into a textile that represented the 18.6-year lunar standstill cycle, a piece of wearable knowledge passed down through generations. These artifacts were the textbooks and public announcements of their day, embedding the rhythm of the universe into the very objects of daily life and sacred ceremony. The stories these artworks tell are not just of kings and gods, but of a profound, intimate relationship with a living sky. They show us cultures that saw the cosmos not as a distant void, but as a vibrant, patterned tapestry in which their own lives were intricately woven threads. That same Babylonian data, etched onto clay tablets for the king's eyes, would one outlive his empire, traveling across centuries to reach the desk of a Greek astronomer in Alexandria. Hipparchus, one of the ancient world's greatest scientific minds, did not start from scratch. He built his celestial models directly upon the foundation of those meticulous Mesopotamian records. By comparing his own observations with the Babylonian data on star positions collected generations earlier, he detected a tiny, persistent drift in the sky. This was the precession of the equinoxes, that grand 26,000-year wobble of Earth's axis. The Babylonians had provided the long-term evidence, the runway of data that allowed Hipparchus to witness a motion too slow for any single lifetime to perceive. This discovery was a seismic shift in Western astronomy, proving the cosmos was not a fixed, immutable vault, but a dynamic system with its own deep, slow rhythms. The chain of knowledge did not stop there. Centuries later, Claudius Ptolemy would synthesize this Greek and Babylonian learning into his monumental work, the Almagest. And it was this very text, preserved through the Islamic world, that a young Isaac Newton would later study, standing on the shoulders of giants to formulate his own laws of universal gravitation. The eclipse predictions of ancient priests, originally meant to secure a king's throne, ultimately helped to unlock the fundamental forces that govern the universe. This legacy is not confined to the West. The Mayan concept of zero, a profound abstract invention that allowed for complex calculations of cosmic cycles, now forms the bedrock of our digital world. Their Videsimal math, based on 20s, intrigues computer scientists for its elegant logic, a different way of structuring information that echoes in the design of modern algorithms. Ancient records are now being used as a unique dataset for 21st century science. Astronomers scour Chinese and Babylonian eclipse logs to measure the long-term slowdown of Earth's rotation. They studied descriptions of supernova in Native American petroglyphs or medieval European manuscripts to identify the remnants of stellar explosions. These ancient observations provide critical data points on a timeline that modern telescopes cannot replicate. So how do we apply this ancient wisdom today? We begin by recognizing that their methods, a blend of long-term observation, pattern recognition, and mathematical modeling, are the very essence of the scientific method. Their legacy teaches us the value of preserving data for the long term, of thinking in cycles that span generations, and of seeing our world as part of an interconnected cosmic system. The greatest tribute we can pay to those early sky watchers is to continue their work, using their ancient light to illuminate our own path forward. The power to read the stars was not just a scientific achievement, it was a profound ethical burden. With the ability to predict cosmic cycles, these ancient empires inherited a weighty responsibility to guide their people wisely. This knowledge forced them to confront deep philosophical questions about fate, free will, and humanity's small but significant place in the vast machinery of the universe. In ancient Greece, the Stoic philosophers looked at the predictable movements of the planets and saw a reflection of a deterministic cosmos. They believed a divine reason, or logos, governed everything from the rising of the sun to the actions of human beings. This was not a cause for despair, but a foundation for their ethical teachings. If the cosmos was an ordered, rational system, then the best life was one lived in harmony with that natural order. Accepting one's fate, including the inevitable cycles of life and death mirrored in the heavens, was the path to virtue and inner peace. Their celestial predictions were not just practical tools, they were evidence of a universe operating by a knowable logic, and their moral duty was to align human life with that grand, rational design. Meanwhile, in the city-states of Mesoamerica, a different philosophical concept shaped their use of prophecy. The Maya and Aztecs lived within a framework of cyclical time, where world ages were destroyed and reborn in a great, repeating pattern. This was not a linear march toward an end, but a cosmic spiral. Within this view, human actions held immense weight. The deeds of one era, the choices of a king, the proper observance of rituals, all rippled forward to influence the character and stability of the next cycle. This promoted a powerful sense of moral accountability across generations. A ruler who failed to act in accordance with celestial signs was not merely making a political mistake, he was jeopardizing the very foundation of the world to come. How do these ancient perspectives on cosmic order speak to our modern debates? We still grapple with the tension between determinism and free will, between the laws of physics that govern the cosmos and our own sense of agency. The Stoic ideal of living in harmony with nature finds echoes in our current environmental movement, a call to align our actions with the natural systems that sustain all life. The Mesoamerican concept of intergenerational responsibility resonates deeply in discussions about climate change, where today's decisions shape the world our descendants will inherit. These lost empires show us that cosmic prediction was never just about marking time. It was a framework for building a just society, for understanding our role in a vast, interconnected whole, and for pondering the timeless question of how to live a good life under the watchful eyes of an orderly and predictable sky. A newly deciphered clay tablet can shatter decades of academic consensus overnight. This is the thrilling and uncertain frontier of ancient astronomy, where every buried artifact holds the potential to rewrite history. For all we have uncovered about lost empires, profound mysteries remain stubbornly locked away. Take the enigmatic site of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, a sprawling complex of carved, T-shaped pillars erected over 11,000 years ago, long before the invention of writing or the wheel. The purpose of these massive stone rings is hotly debated, but some researchers point to compelling evidence that the pillars were aligned with specific stars, including those of the constellation Cygnus. If true, this would push back the origins of systematic astronomy by thousands of years, suggesting that the very first monumental human constructions were not just temples, but celestial observatories. The silence of its builders leaves us with only the stones themselves, and their astronomical story is still being pieced together. Equally elusive are the methods of the Druids. Classical writers described them as masters of natural philosophy who could predict eclipses, but they left no written records of their own. Their sacred knowledge died with them, leaving us to wonder how they achieved such feats using only the natural world as their laboratory. Were they tracking subtle patterns in tree growth or animal behavior linked to solar cycles? We may never know for certain. The search for answers is now supercharged by 21st century technology. Light detection and ranging, or LiDAR, uses laser pulses to see through dense jungle canopies, revealing vast, hidden networks of ancient roads, settlements, and ceremonial centers laid out with precise celestial orientations. From orbit, satellite imagery detects subtle differences in vegetation growth, outlining the foundations of forgotten structures whose alignments point directly to solstice sunrises or the southernmost rising of the moon. Each new discovery chips away at our assumptions, forcing us to admit that ancient scientific thought was likely more sophisticated and far more widespread than we ever credited. The very origins of astronomy are being pushed further back into the mists of prehistory. What will the next scan of a remote hillside or the next translation of a fractured manuscript reveal about our cosmic past? This ongoing quest ensures the story of ancient prediction is never truly finished, but is a living, breathing puzzle that continues to challenge and inspire. A single caravan traversing the Silk Road carried more than silk and spices. It carried the future of science. These ancient routes were a living network, a planetary web through which cosmic knowledge flowed as freely as any trade good. A Chinese star chart could inspire a Persian astronomer, whose refined calculations would later be translated in a Spanish library, preserving a Greek idea that might otherwise have been lost forever. This was not a series of isolated geniuses, but a collective, global endeavor. During the golden age of Islam, scholars in Baghdad's House of Wisdom became the world's great librarians of the heavens. They absorbed the meticulous records of the Babylonians and the geometric models of the Greeks, then fused them with insights from Indian sages who had perfected the sine function. These Islamic astronomers did not merely preserve this knowledge, they tested it, refined it, and built magnificent observatories to push it further. Their star catalogues and planetary tables became the most accurate in the world, and when this accumulated wisdom finally passed into medieval Europe, it provided the very spark that ignited the Renaissance. It was a chain of intellect spanning continents and centuries. But what about the Americas, seemingly cut off from the old world? Even here, we find echoes of a network. While direct contact between the Maya and the Inca is unlikely, similar astronomical principles like the precise tracking of Venus or the engineering of solstice markers appear in both cultures. This suggests a slower, more indirect sharing of ideas along trade routes that connected South, Central, and North America, a diffusion of cosmic concepts that allowed methods to be refined and adapted across vast distances. How did these exchanges shape the development of astronomy? they accelerated it. A problem that might have taken one culture 1,000 years to solve could be halved when insights were borrowed and built upon. An observational technique perfected in the clear desert skies of the Middle East could be combined with a mathematical tool from India to create a new predictive model. This interconnectedness underscores a profound truth that the human drive to understand the cosmos has always been a shared journey. Our modern map of the universe was not drawn by one empire, but was pieced together from fragments of knowledge passed hand to hand across the deserts, mountains, and oceans of the ancient world. Their celestial legacy is a profound inheritance, a testament to the timeless human drive to find our place in the cosmos. From the silent, patient stones of Stonehenge to the intricate Venus tables of the Maya, these lost empires achieved a level of sophistication that continues to astonish our modern minds. They teach us that true understanding does not always require the most advanced technology, but can be born from unwavering patience, meticulous observation, and the elegant language of mathematics woven into the fabric of myth. This journey through their wisdom is an invitation to reclaim a sense of wonder. The next time you stand beneath a star-filled sky, remember you are witnessing the same cosmic dance they mapped with such breathtaking accuracy. Which of their prediction methods speaks most deeply to you? The stone calendars, the mythic stories, or the complex gearwork of ancient computers? Share your reflections in the comments below, and if this exploration has illuminated something for you, subscribe to continue unraveling the great mysteries of our shared past. Carry this ancient wisdom forward, a reminder that we are all connected by a shared curiosity about the universe and our enduring quest to read its grand, rhythmic story. A Mayan priest's calculation for the long count could one day inform our models for the next century of climate patterns. This is not a retreat to superstition, but a forward-looking synthesis of ancient insight and modern science. The same long-term observational data that allowed lost empires to predict celestial cycles is now being examined for clues about terrestrial ones. Tree rings, ice cores, and sediment layers reveal a history of climatic shifts, and researchers are beginning to correlate these earthly records with the grand cosmic cycles those cultures so meticulously track. The Maya, for instance, meticulously documented periods of drought in their codices, events that often coincided with specific planetary alignments they also recorded. By studying this integrated data, we can ask new questions. Did they observe a correlation between solar minimums, visible as reduced sunspot activity, and prolonged dry spells that challenged their civilization? Understanding how they adapted their agriculture, water management, and even their urban planning in response to these climate cycles, which they saw as divinely ordained, provides a powerful historical playbook for our own era of environmental change. Their wisdom offers more than just data, it presents an ethical framework. These cultures saw themselves as part of a delicate cosmic balance, with a responsibility to maintain harmony between human action and the natural world. This perspective could profoundly reshape our modern approach to sustainability, moving us from a mindset of exploitation to one of stewardship, recognizing that our actions ripple through cycles far greater than ourselves. As advanced pattern recognition algorithms, a form of artificial intelligence, begin to sift through thousands of ancient astronomical records, they may uncover subtle correlations and predictive models that have eluded human researchers for centuries. These digital minds, trained on the obsessions of the old ones, could unlock new forms of forecasting, from refining climate models to predicting solar storm activity that threatens our power grids. How do we honor this knowledge without appropriating or distorting it? The path forward requires a respectful partnership, where indigenous knowledge holders work alongside scientists, where archaeologists consult with astronomers, creating a new, holistic science built upon the deepest foundations of human curiosity. The unmatched accuracy of the lost empires was not an end point, but a starting line for a conversation across time, one that is only now beginning to reveal its full potential to guide humanity toward a more resilient and harmonious future.